In the century preceding the birth of Christ, Nephi's promised land had become a very dangerous place. The Nephite society had succumbed to the spiritual cancers of pride, idolatry, and faithlessness. The wars between the Nephites and Lamanites grew in frequency and intensity. The Lamanites were gaining strength in the land southward. The seemingly invincible fortress of Zarahemla fell twice to the Lamanites. So precarious were the circumstances at Zarahemla that church leaders moved out of the city and established their headquarters in the city of Bountiful. Welcome to another episode of Discovering the Book of Mormon through Science and Exploration. Where was the land Bountiful, and where was the city of Bountiful? The Book of Mormon provides 3 clues as to where to find the land of Bountiful. 1. The land of Bountiful lies south of the land of desolation. 2. It ran from the east to the West Sea. 3. Its northern border was defined as the narrow neck of land. In our previous videos on Peru, we noted that the ancient Peruvians called the Rimac Valley, where the city of Lima is located, the land of the people of desolation. Thus, the land of Bountiful would have been south of Lima, Peru. We also explained that the term east in the native Peruvian language of Quechua is Anti, which also means the Andes Mountains. This would mean that the land Bountiful ran from the Pacific Ocean up to the Andes Mountains. Finally, our candidate for the narrow neck of land is the Lurin Valley, implying that the northern border of the land Bountiful was the Lurin Valley. See our video on the narrow neck of land. These 3 clues provide an estimated domain of the land Bountiful. To determine where the city of Bountiful was located, we first need to understand why it was settled. Originally, the city of Bountiful was settled for military purposes. In verse 27 of chapter 22 in Alma, we learn that the Lamanites and the Nephites were separated from each other by a narrow strip of land that ran between the sea east and the sea west. We also learn in this verse that the Lamanites were mostly living in the land southward. See Alma 50:13. We also know that at that time the city of Nephi was occupied by the Lamanites. The Nephites, on the other hand, occupied the lands north of the narrow strip of land, including the land northward. In ancient times, there was a highway that ran along the Pacific shoreline. The Lamanites were very aggressive at this time and had crossed over the narrow strip of land, attacking cities like Mulek, Bountiful, and other settlements. For this reason, Captain Moroni fortified the city of Bountiful and other cities in the area. By establishing fortified cities in the land of Bountiful, the area became the first barrier preventing the Lamanites from attacking the land northward. The second barrier blocking the Lamanite passage along the Pacific were the fortifications that were built at the narrow neck of land at the north border of the land of Bountiful. The largest ancient city south of the narrow neck of land would have been the city of Nazca and its sacred temple complex at Cahuachi. In earlier times, under the righteous kings Mosiah and Benjamin, the Nephites had prospered. Besides being a benevolent king, King Mosiah had a gifted military mind. He led campaigns that drove the Lamanites out of the land of Zarahemla, that would be the area of North Titicaca Basin, and established peace in his kingdom for the remainder of his days. Mosiah 1:1. In the 1st century BC, a powerful civilization was growing at the southern end of Lake Titicaca, the Chiripa civilization that preceded Tiwanaku. As this Aymara-speaking Lamanite city grew in power, it became a major threat to Pucara, or Zarahemla, on the north side of Lake Titicaca. In need of a safer habitat, the Nephites at Zarahemla had three choices. 1. To colonize the land Bountiful to their west. 2. To resettle the shoreline valleys north of the land of desolation, where the Jaredites once lived. Thus, by 72 BC, many Nephites were immigrating north and taking possession, quote, of all the land northward, yea, even all the land which was northward of the land Bountiful, according to their pleasure. Alma 50:11. 3. Sail away to a new homeland, in what was undoubtedly another desperate attempt to find a safer place to live in 55 BC. Hagoth launched the first of his ships near the borders of the land Bountiful, by the land desolation, Alma 62:5, by the narrow neck of land. It appears that the governing body of the church and a large number of the Nephites chose option 1. The relocation of the headquarters of the church from Zarahemla to Bountiful possibly happened around 35 BC, when the Lamanites did come down against the Nephites to battle, and they did commence the work of death, yea, insomuch that in the 50th and 8th year of the reign of the judges, they succeeded in obtaining possession of the land of Zarahemla, yea, and also all the lands, even into the land which was near the land Bountiful. Does the archaeological record support the idea that Nazca was a candidate for the city of Bountiful? During the time the Nephite capital was moved to Bountiful, there was an extension of Bakara, that is, Zarahemla, influence to the Nazca Empire near the Pacific Ocean, our proposed candidate for Bountiful. In other words, Bakara, or Zarahemla, and Nazca were allies. Archaeologists have concluded that the most important civilization to arise west of Bakara in the 1st century BC was Nazca. Nazca is famous for its huge lines, or geoglyphs, of animal figures created in the desert that can only be visually appreciated from high in the air. Discoveries of Nazca-like geoglyphs in Syria, Jordan, Israel, and Saudi Arabia possibly indicates that the origin of these lines was the Middle East. The Bedouins call them the works of old men. When I retraced Lehi's trail in Arabia, I saw some of these geoglyphs, and they reminded me of the ones I'd seen in Peru. Archaeologists Elaine Silverman from the University of Illinois and Donald Prolix of the University of Massachusetts define the time period for the rise of the Nazca Empire as an important political and religious center. It is highly unlikely that Nazca I can be earlier than the final century of the first millennium BC. Nazca I also can be cross-dated to the Bakara, that is, Zarahemla style of the Lake Titicaca Basin on the base of Bakara, use of incised lines to separate areas of slip-painted color. Radiocarbon dates from strata of pure Bakara refuge dated to approximately 150 BC to 100 AD. These dates also support the suggestion that Nazca I dates to this period of time. The first mention of the land of Bountiful in the Book of Mormon is found in the 22nd chapter of Alma. The footnote indicates that it's between 90 and 77 BC. However, this is a reference to a place that already existed, so it's very likely that Bountiful was first settled in the late 2nd century BC. A study published in 2014 by a highly credible team of archaeologists is interesting. It was based on skeleton samples from the Nazca Valley in southern Peru. The team took 207 DNA samples from human remains dating from circa 840 BC to 1450 AD. The team's DNA analysis was reproduced by the ancient DNA laboratories of the University of Adelaide and Yale University. Following strict precautions common to ancient DNA analysis, the scientists came to some interesting DNA conclusions. They discovered that there was a significant increase in the population of the Nazca area starting around 200 BC. This would be consistent with the Book of Mormon events when the Nephites shifted their capital from Bountiful to Nazca. The scientists also found that there was a genetic discontinuity and a decrease in the population of the area around 440 AD, roughly the time of the Nephite extermination. While scientists believe that the decline in the population could have occurred due to climatic changes, they found no corresponding climate change data to support that idea, as they reported to the U.S. National Academy of Sciences that alternative demographic factors such as mass mortality cannot be excluded at this stage. Not only is Nazca I period considered to have been an offshoot of the Pakara, that is, Zarahemla culture, it also seems to have had a familiar ruling duality that was employed at Zarahemla. That is, there was both secular rulers and a separate religious hierarchy. The Nephite captain Moroni prepared his people with breastplates and with arm shields, yea, and also shields to defend their heads, and also they were dressed with thick cloth. The Nephites prepared well for battle. Captain Moroni had them clothed from head to toe in thick woven material to protect their bodies. The Lamanites, on the other hand, fought naked, save it be only a girdle about their loins. Painted on Nazca pottery are battle scenes depicting soldiers of varied dress, from naked to wearing just a loincloth, to one that depicts a fully clothed Nazca warrior fighting and grabbing the wild hair of a naked savage. Before the 21st century, a pre-Columbian iron ore mine had never been discovered in the New World, making the Book of Mormon assertions that the Nephites wore armor suspect. However, in 2008, archaeologists discovered the only known pre-Columbian iron ore mine in all the Americas. The mine dates back at least 2,000 years and was found at Nazca, Peru. The eloquent artistry of the Nazca civilization also brings to mind images of the rich Nephite society. The Nazca lines are some of the true mysteries and wonders of the ancient world. The pottery, weavers, embroiderers, and architects of Nazca were highly skilled. For example, Nazca potters used up to 11 slip pigments on a single vessel, which typically are highly polished. Nazca sophisticated society has been classified as one of the master craftsman cultures of the ancient world. We also know that the Nephites of Bountiful period wore costly apparel. As mentioned earlier, the Nazca men wore mantles, tunics, turbans, turban bands, and headcloths. The Nazca women adorn their hair with feathers or golden plumes. The main item of clothing worn by females is an ankle-length mantle, which is most often shown wrapped around the body, sometimes fastened with a pin. Beneath the mantles, women seem to have worn a long tunic, probably consisting of two rectangles of cloth sewn together to form a tubular garment. Headcloths were sometimes used. When the Spanish arrived, the indigenous natives of Peru had no facial hair. An intriguing piece of Nazca pottery depicts a man who might have been a descendant of the Nephites. Painted on this pot is a well-dressed, fair-skinned Nazca man depicted with a long mustache and goatee. At the bottom of the pot are two faces, one darker-skinned and the other fair-skinned. Excavated tombs have revealed that the Nazca craftsmen made gold forehead ornaments, golden mouth mask, and other gold items of personal adornment, such as head plumes, bracelets, earrings, pennants, and remarkable spear throwers. Finally, the Nazca ruins have yielded artifacts that would be required for any serious candidate of a Nephite archaeological site, evidence of gold plate technology. Nazca excavations have recovered gold sheets that were hammered into almost uniform thinness. The Book of Mormon tells us that Bountiful had timbers that they could ship to the Nephites who had colonized the land northward. The river valleys of Nazca abounded in trees that could have been placed aboard Nephite ships and transported to the land northward. To transport timbers to the land northward from the land of Bountiful required that the land of Bountiful had a harbor. The Book of Mormon lands of Bountiful matches that of Contisuyo, the southwest corner of the Inca Empire. Contisuyo had two Pacific ports. The first was called Puerto Inca, merely 80 miles from Nazca City. The second was the large natural harbor at Paracas. The temple at Bountiful is important to students of the Book of Mormon. After the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, it is there that the Nephites gathered, and it is there that Jesus Christ first appeared to them. Besides the temple, there was an entire religious complex at Nazca called Cahuachi, sprawling over 40 low-lying hills capped with adobe structures. It was a pilgrimage site that brought thousands of worshippers to the region. After the visitation of Jesus Christ in the Americas, a golden age dawned. The people were righteous, and they prospered exceedingly and were partakers of the heavenly gift. Christ's teachings at Bountiful and perhaps other places launched the Nephite Golden Age. During Book of Mormon times, this was probably no more apparent than at Nazca. Besides the amazing geoglyphs, the Nazca people excelled in the arts and crafts. The Nazca people were the ancient world's master weavers. Their doctors performed brain surgeries. They forged metal into plates and molded incredible pottery. They constructed unique subterranean irrigation systems like those found only in the Near East. They had large religious pilgrimages with feast and music. Probably the most accurate representation of a Nephite-like society in the ancient Americas was Nazca. Discover more about the Book of Mormon by subscribing to this channel, or you can visit our website, christinperu.com. That's one word, Christ in Peru, where you can learn about our books and our annual tours to Peru. Thank you.